everybody, welcome back to Forza Horizon 4 Hillclimbs. I may or may not have forgotten about January. Whoops! Huge oversight. Yeah, that was not planned. That was called a mistake. Anyway, we have a bunch of new cars to look at now for the Hillclimb. And let's start off with the fact that we have a ton of painfully slow cars. We have a bunch of D100s, we had the Volkswagen Bus, pickup truck, the Oliver, we had the Hillman Imp, yeah. And probably the fastest one was quite a terrible diff, I will be honest, is this, the Mercedes 300, the Mercedes-Benz 1929 crazy roadster, big old supercharged. I think it's a V12, I think? Oh no, it might be a V16. They had those back in the days, they were weird. Terrible diff, a surprisingly large amount of horsepower though. I think it's got over 200 horsepower. Which sounds terrifying in the 20s, I'm just gonna point that out. But there you go. Yeah, lots of D-class cars, lots of cars that were they tested your patience when driving them up the hill climb. Let's just leave it at that. Apparently people were really loving this car. This is the Nissan Fairlady Z, and well, yes, it is very fast on a rally stage as seen previous. It is still, at the very end of it, a B-class car, and that means it's not going to be the fastest up the hill. But it's still a twin-turbo, I think it's a inline 6 or a V6, I don't remember which. Point is, it's not too shabby. And, well, it is a two-door sports car, so it has some good grip, has some good handling. It just doesn't quite have that mid-range acceleration. You can see it's struggling to get above 90 there. That's not very good. Also, it's a bit oversteer. It's not too terrible, though. Oversteer is not the major problem. I was just pushing a bit too hard sometimes. And, of course, when you don't have that much acceleration, you have to push hard through the corners. Meaning, this can sometimes get quite oversteery. But overall, it's not too shabby. Apparently people love this car because it's like a JDM legend. It's a good car, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure if it lives up to the hype, except when you build it for a rally stage. Apparently this thing is the best rally car known to man. So, who knew? Who knew that the variety of purposes. You could go, you know, street racing with it, you could go hill climb racing, you could go rally racing. It's got a unlimited potential, really. So well done for Nissan for creating such a multi-purpose vehicle. And yeah, it's okay, I think I'll say. It's not terrible. I've driven much worse cars around here. I've also driven much faster cars. I've also driven much slower cars. So it's nothing wrong. It's a very good car. It's just nothing special, at least from stock. Once you modify it, though, that's a very different story, because I'm an oversteer where I don't want it on that hairpin. Heading up to the last corner now. It's got some decent go, but it's just not enough. But there we go, we are across the line. Now, of course, we had the free Mitsubishi pack in January, and that means 7 Mitsubishis. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm representing one here. This, of course, being the fastest of the lot, the Mitsubishi Evo 6. Not so surprising, considering it's basically the road-legal version of a rally car, as opposed to the other ones, which are rallyified road cars. So that makes sense. And it's got, I think, 300 torque, almost 300 horsepower, all-wheel drive, lightweight. It's a perfect handling car, really. And I really like it. I've always loved the Evo 6. It's always been my personal favorite of the Lancer name. And nothing's been able to really surpass it since, both in speed and in terms of just iconicness. I think it won 4 rally driver titles, and I think 1 or 2 championship manufacturer titles. So it's got a pretty darn good history. Pretty darn good history indeed. And it is just very nice to drive. It's very little to complain about on this car. I guess you could say it had more power, but, I mean, for B-Class, it's got a very good amount of power, very lightweight, good acceleration out of the corners, and of course, the cornering grip is also very impressive. I seem to recall, I never personally experienced this, but the Evo 6 was a very OP car in previous Forza games in certain classes. It was very overpowered, and you always just dominated with an Evo 6, so has some Forza cred for sure. And you can see why. It's very composed, no oversteer at all. It has very little turbo lag, if any, and I really like in the car. I'm always glad to see Mitsubishi in video games. I personally prefer them over Subaru. Don't hate me. Yeah, the Evo 6 is definitely the champion of the Subaru and the champion of the Evos up the hill. Now, the most distinctive car has to go to this, the TVR Tucson. I love TVR. They're absolutely mental. You wouldn't say their cars are ugly, and the Tucson is distinctive, we'll say. But no one can deny how crazy mad they are. I mean, it's got a bug for a face, it's got color-changing paint from the factory, and it's got 300 horsepower rear-wheel drive and a 2-door sports coupe. That's pretty awesome. And it handles quite nicely, it has very good acceleration for A-Class. This is an A-Class car. And it's certainly one of the more striking vehicles. I know that's saying something, because we have quite a roster of standouts for today, and this, I think, for me personally, has to take the case for the strangest looking car of the entire thing, because it just looks bizarre. I love it. It looks just weird, and I love me a weird looking car, because everything nowadays is all dreary and gray and silver and black and white. This thing is like walking into a classical art gallery blaring rock music. I love it. And it has a good amount of handling. It doesn't get too much oversteer, but you can keep the back end excited if you so desire. And combine that with the... I like the look of this car. The distinctive look. It really is a perfect match. I always love to see more TVRs in Forza. They're very underrepresented, considering we just got the Speed 12 introduced this game for in many years. And that combined the looks with the handling, you see the oversteer a little bit, not ideal, but not too terrible. I just like the car a lot. Good handling, interesting look, memorable looks, and the TVR will cross the line. We have a mysterious car next, the Honda Acura NSX. Now, this is the RGT version, a homologation requirement for the Super GT category, hence the crazy body kit and the fictional hood, the roof scoop, but it doesn't actually work apparently. And I say it's a mystery because no one actually knows the true stats on it. They never released the stats, they only made 3 cars, and the owners have not told anyone what the actual stats are. So, officially this car is slightly heavier than the normal NSX-R. I would presume due to the added bodywork. And it has the same amount of power, but it's almost 30 PI points higher. And I would presume that PI comes in the handling department because it handles absolutely perfectly. I love how the NSX-R GT handles. It just grips. It doesn't have that much horsepower, about 276 I believe. And it has massive body kit, so I would presume big tires. A lot of aerodynamic aids and trickery, good suspension, a mid-engine layout, so it has all the hallmarks to be a really massively grippy car. And it shows. I really like how this car handles. I think it's a brilliant handling car, and I have no complaints with it whatsoever. And I don't think this car's ever actually been in a game, when I think about it. I think maybe Gran Turismo, I would presume, because they have a ton of cars in their games. But, yeah, it's very interesting. I love the history behind it. I love the handling. It does lack acceleration just because it lacks power. But other than that, that's my only major complaint, is it lacks acceleration. But when on a handling circuit like this, it doesn't really matter. And that means, rather quickly for an A-Class car, we are across the line. Yes, this is the actual factory color for a Porsche 911 from 2019. This is lime green Porsche 911 Carrera. And yeah, I must say this is new 911. Not only is it very good at rallying, and I think it's still in the top 5 for a rally series, I think. It's also quite quick, has active aerodynamics, and all-wheel drive, over 400 horsepower. It's pretty darn good. And you would expect that from a 911. This is the newest generation, the 993. I actually turned it a little too early, that's how much grip it has. And I love this car, because it still has that 911 look. It still says, I am a 911. You will not change me. It's still rear engine somehow. I don't know how the engineers at Porsche worked on that, but they managed to make a rear-engine car, work in the modern era, and it works well. It's a 911, so it handles perfectly. It has great brakes, great acceleration. I mean, I push too much and run wide. Even on the grass, it has enough grip to make the corner without being too slow. That is quite impressive, and the sheer variety of colors is staggering. I mean, you can have yellow, white, silver, black, lime green. Yeah, I've always loved the 911. I've always thought it is a well-deserving benchmark for all sports cars in the world, and just continuous gradual improvement has made the new 911, the 993, somehow even better than the previous as we round the final corner. No oversteer or understeer, we go across the line! Now this is a car we've already looked at, the TVR Griffith, and it's probably the least TVR you'll ever see. It's got sensible looks, except for the side pipes right at the front of the door. Has one color option. This one, admittedly, this is only a prototype, but still, one red color option. Come on, TVR, where's your neon purple? And it has a sensible traction control system, stability control, active aero, and a 500 horsepower Cosworth-tuned V8 from Ford. So, it's quite quick. I showed that it got to over 170 in its stock form on this very twisty map here on Fortune Island, and with a maxed out 1,000 horsepower stock engine, it can get over 215 miles an hour. Yeah. I'm very happy to see TVR back, just in general, because, again, TVR has always been one of my personal favorites, and I'm kinda glad they have a sensible-ish car, because then they're gonna appeal to more buyers, you can make more cars, and then maybe they can go absolutely bonkers and make something uncontrollable and, you know, plastic with, like, see-through wings and vents that don't actually open. You know, the TVR stuff that we know and love. So, here's hoping that the Griffith will do well, so they can get back to work on what TVRs are meant to be. Red flags on your life insurance policy. Point is, this one, very grippy, very slidey only when you want it to, and on this hill climb you don't want it, so yeah, very little sliding, except for the part where I go sliding there, but that's not the point. Yeah, it's very quick. I love how it drives, I love the sound, I love everything about it. And we go across the line. Hot Wheels Mustang, another vehicle added with the seasonal changes. And this certainly wins the award for the craziest aerodynamics. It has, I'm pretty sure, half of New York City's scaffolding on the back for its diffuser and front splitter. It's mental, it's very grippy, and very, very fast, so it should do quite well despite being a muscle car. This was built for SEMA, I believe. So, it's not exactly a race car. It's not exactly a road car. It's more of a show car that Ford decided to put in anyway. And yeah, I like it. I like how... I've always liked how this car drove. It's always been ridiculously grippy. It's been in 4 Forza games now. Forza 6, Forza Horizon 3, Motorsport 7, and now Horizon 4. And it's always been just absurdly grippy. I'm talking crazy amounts of grip. I think this is in the S1 class now. And yeah, it's quite good. It's quite good indeed. I actually pushed a little too hard in the braking zone. Not quite as composed on the dirt as the 911 was, but it's still, you know, pretty good for a rear-wheel drive muscle car, don't get me wrong. And yeah, it doesn't have the most ludicrous acceleration, it has less than 600 horsepower. But the grip from the downforce and from those massive rear tires, they more than make up for that in the tight twisties of this Needle Pass hill climb. Yeah, I love it. Once again, this has been a 2 months, a very good handling car. Very good handling. That's like the main focus, if you will, of this last 2 months is handling. And it shows, I mean, again, a big slide as we go across the line. And the fastest vehicle today is, not here. The Hoonigan RS200 I was supposed to have, and then I, forgot to get it. So I built one. This has 750 horsepower, all-wheel drive, full aerodynamics, full racing slicks to make up for the fact that it's not quite the racing-oriented 600 horsepower monster that Ken Block actually owns. Good job me. But it is very quick. See, the Group B cars are always quick. And with racing fuel, the stock RS2R can get, hang on, 800 horsepower. Combined now is relatively lightweight. It was quite heavy for Group B actually, but very lightweight for a race car. And the all-wheel drive system with the aerodynamics means it's quite quick. It's very fast. It is a bit uncontrollable sometimes though, because you're accelerating and then sometimes the brakes aren't quite good enough. And sometimes you spin the wheels up despite being all-wheel drive just because there's so much power escaping so quickly. And you can just see the speed we're getting to 103 miles an hour is absurd. But it's not the easiest car to control. If you get it right, it's absolutely ridiculous. If you get it wrong, you're gonna end up in a massive accident. Again, 104 through there. Brakes were overall okay. Again, a little weak just based on the sheer speed we're carrying, but we are carrying 100 miles an hour through a very twisty hill climb, so gotta give it a bit of a pass on that one. And yeah, it's just very, very fast. One more corner to go already, and we are rocketing across the line. So unsurprisingly, the S2 class, Hoonigan Escort-ish, is the fastest time of the day in 9th place, faster than the S5S Raptor, but slower than both the Koenigseggs, the actual Hoonigan Escorts. Yeah, it was good. Maybe if I find one on the auction house, I'll get it and rerun it, but whoopsie. The fastest road car, not excluding the Mustang, the Mustang will go into about in the top 15 is about 11th place, I believe. Following up the TVR, the fastest official road car. And then following that up quite closely, those three right next to each other with the Porsche 911. And then we have a little bit, quite a ways further down to go to find the rest of them. You know, the Mercedes, the Imp, the fastest of the NSX Evo stuff, Nissan, those are around the top 20. The gap, though, is quite interesting between the Type D and the normal Regalia. They are, again, the same engine, same power plant, just completely different builds. And it's very interesting seeing those two split times. And again, you can see the slowest Mitsubishi is the Eclipse, with the fastest being the Evo 6. So it's very interesting seeing the differences in these cars. But that is going to be it for this episode. I'll be back with more, hopefully on time.